Hello, thank you very much. Really appreciate being invited here to moderate this panel. May I invite our guests, so Estelle Antognelli, please, Carol Savage, Jacqueline Boysselle, and Mr. Philip Jones. Hi, everyone. Here in the room and worldwide, as it's been said, it's streamed, so we have people from all over the world watching us on this super interesting topic, how to communicate on sustainable travel. So we can discuss when tourism was invented, the income management, the tourist tax, the tourist code. I'm pretty sure it's that at that time, whether 80 years ago or even more, climate change topics or issues were not addressed like we do today. Today, all industry stakeholders are addressing this topic heads-on, sustainable travel. It's a matter of responsibility, but it's also a question of business. Still, it remains very confusing and pretty unclear for consumers or clients. May they be B2B, B2C, B2B2C, to view or to have a clear view of what's going on. Regulation, miscommunication, and even all kinds of evidences seem difficult to interpret. So we are here today to discuss the challenge and to bring examples as best cases on how to communicate in the proper way, on a sustainable way, on sustainable travel. The question would be, how can we make people understand that what we're doing is well? And at some point, how can they trust us? At the end of the session, we'll take questions from the audience, and I will start straight ahead with you, Estelle Antognelli from Monaco Principauté, la Principauté de Monaco. You're in charge of the Responsible Tourism Unit, which is a real CSR department. Could you tell us a little bit more about your role?
Yes, hello Frederic, hello everyone. So thank you for the invitation. My name is Estelle Antognelli. I work in Monaco for the Monaco Government Tourist Authority. And I work in this department since for 20 years now. So I'm in charge of the CSR department. Before it was called Responsible Tourism Department, and now we have created a real CSR department because of all the work we have to do. So yeah, it's huge, but very interesting.
Absolutely. How can Monaco as a luxury destination be sustainable?
Oh, as you can imagine, this question comes up very often. But yeah, it's true that Monaco is known for its Grand Prix, it's known for its casino, for its glamour, but it's also a very engaged destination, and since a long time, because the princess has always been the spokesperson. For example, Prince Albert I, who was very known because he traveled all over the world and wanted to preserve the ocean. And now, since the advent of Prince Albert II, we have a very strong CSR policy in Monaco. The government follow the prince, and this is the priority of the government. We have an objective, which is to be carbon neutral in 2050. So it's challenging, but all the people who live in Monaco, who work in Monaco, follow the rules. So we act a lot. The residents, the public and the private sectors, and of course the tourism industry act a lot to attain this objective. The tourism industry has been evolved very soon, and today we have more than 88% of rooms that are certified with CSR certification, like such as Green Globe, Green Key, or Planet 21. In terms of restaurant, the restaurants act a lot. We have also certifications, labels. We fight against food waste. Even the Michelin-starred restaurants fight against food waste, and you can find everywhere La Petite Boîte, which is le doggy bag, but it's more glamour to call it La Petite Boîte. And so, yeah, in terms of mobility, we have also lots of solutions. Of course, Monaco, it's very teeny. It's just 2 square kilometers, so you can walk. It's a walking. Everything is walking distance. But we have also electric buses, vehicles in free floating. So, yeah, we do a lot. And at the Monaco Government Authority, where I work, just before the pandemic, we decided to have an overview of what responsible tourism was in Monaco. So we decided to have a reflection with all the stakeholders, and we created a white paper that has been launched at the end of last year. And now we know what we have to do to be better. We have defined 5 major axes that we have linked with the SDGs, because we wanted to act in terms of environment, but also in terms of social tourism. So,
what do you mean by social tourism?
I mean the social aspect of the sustainability. In fact, in Monaco, before this white paper, our actions were very oriented in terms of environment. And now we want to develop a tourism for all, which is our 4th point.
And you mean you educate visitors?
This is our first point. The tourism for all is, for example, to develop a tourism for the person with disabilities. Okay. And of course, in terms of education, it has been the first point that we have decided to do in our action plan. We have a 3-year action plan, and the first point is educate and train. Educate and train our partners, because they need to be trained, and of course also the visitors, because the visitor has also a responsibility when it comes to the destination to be responsible.
How do you make this happen? I mean, educate visitors, educate people. I understand that educating hotels, educating restaurants, educating travel agencies, I don't even understand why they don't have their own policy, but how do you educate people that come into Monaco?
It's very concrete, in fact. We have lots of little action when they come in Monaco, but before they come, they can find lots of information on our website, for example. So we have lots of articles to explain what sustainable tourism is. And we have also created infographics for example, we have how to be a good, responsible visitor when you come to Monaco. So it's really simple, but it's really easy to understand. And when they come to Monaco, now we have made a lot of action, like, for example, during the summer, our hostess give ashtrays to the tourists in the streets, and they educate them in order to that they don't put their cigarettes anywhere. So it's an action, but we have also made a campaign of sensibilization with the direction of the environment, because in Monaco the single-use plastic bags are forbidden, and sometimes the visitors are surprised because they want the bag, and we have a communication campaign to explain why we do not give bags anymore. And another concrete action that it's in process now. We are working on the carbon calculator. Mm-hmm. It will be on our website, on a carbon calculator dedicated to the individuals, and another one will be dedicated to the events. And it's just for the moment an action to educate the visitors. I mean, the visitor will put all the information on this calculator, and he will have the information about his impact when he comes to Monaco.
Really interesting.
For the moment, we don't want to propose a solution of offsetting, because we want to be sure that the visitor reduce all his impact before to come. It's too easy to say, okay, take the helicopter, and then we will propose you a solution to offset it. We don't want that.
So you mean that you start measuring your actions?
Exactly.
In a way, even if it's still pretty hard to do so.
Yeah.
And how can you make sure that I trust you? I mean, as a consumer, when I come to Monaco, when you communicate on sustainable travel.
Oh, I think the best way is to ask them directly.
They're not in a room today.
No. Stop joking. No, I tell that because when we decided to create this white paper, we sent surveys to the visitors, to the clients, the residents, and so on. And in fact, when we received the results, we were very surprised to see that the visitors surveyed were able to define Monaco as a sustainable destination. It was 86%. So they clearly defined Monaco as a sustainable destination with soft mobility, biodiversity. So I think the best way is to come and visit us, and then you will see what we act, because I know that the perception for the moment of Monaco is not a sustainable destination. It's a luxury destination.
That's not what I'm saying. I mean, the prince and the princess have always communicated on nature and sustainability. So, and we know that it's tough, actually. It won't be made like in 5 to 10 years. And you mentioned 2050. So, and some people say, why don't you do this before 2050? But we all know that it's tough. Welcome to Mr. Philip Jones, your Chief Destination Marketing and Manager Officer of Royal Commission for AlUla in Saudi Arabia. So please tell us a little bit about Saudi Arabia, AlUla, and your role.
Certainly. Well, good afternoon or good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. I will tell you that when I was approached about coming to Saudi Arabia, my initial perception was, why would I go to Saudi Arabia? It's not a destination that's on the map for tourists. But in the last 4 years, they've put a very big emphasis on opening the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia as a new tourism destination. And as a result, we're seeing tremendous progress in the community and in the country of Saudi Arabia, bringing people in from across the country to work in an industry that didn't exist. And so what we're doing in AlUla, which is an amazing destination, it's in northwestern part of Saudi Arabia. It's an area that's been continuously had civilization for the last 7,000 years. So it dates back 7,000 years to the Dadanites, the Lahians, the Nabateans, the Romans, all the way through modern day. And we have hundreds of monuments and archaeological sites that are being sort of exposed and developed. We have a UNESCO World Heritage Site called Hegra, which is the southern border of the Nabatean Kingdom. You may be familiar with Petra, which is the northern border of the Nabatean Kingdom. And so what we're doing is building a tourism ecosystem from the ground up. They didn't have a tourism industry, so we have to build hotels, we have to build restaurants, we have to build airports, we have to build roads, and we have to put in place the ecosystem, the infrastructure to develop a tourism industry. So I've been on the ground now as the head of the destination, both marketing, branding, positioning, but also the operational side of the destination, so that everything we do is done in a sustainable way. We actually launched what we call our cultural manifesto in Paris 3 years ago, committing to sustainability.
What's fascinating is that you're creating new rules, new standards, and that's pretty fascinating. How do you build trust with audience so that they know that they'll be safe, they'll be looked after?
That's an excellent question. When I first thought of Saudi Arabia, my perception was it was very militaristic, very conservative. When I arrived, I found that the people are amazingly warm, friendly, generous, proud of their country, very hospitable. Now in AlUla, it's been a farming community for the last 100 years. So we have 1 million date palms, so they were date farmers. And so now they're inviting people into their home and showing them some amazing hospitality that no one would expect to experience. And engaging with the locals is one of the more interesting opportunities we offer, because a lot of the businesses we're creating are small businesses, and interestingly, most of them are women-owned small businesses. So it's really fun to see the female workforce coming into effect in Saudi Arabia, which 5 years ago, it didn't happen.
Do you think that this could be like a standard for the rest of the world? Because really, it's tough for us to understand how can you make it possible, really.
Well,
and we're not talking about concerns about everything that you mentioned. I'm talking about how you produce energy for this. How is this sustainable? We know that it's gorgeous landscapes. It's absolutely fascinating. Could it be a new standard?
I think two things are important to understand in that respect. One, yeah, I think it's a massive area. So AlUla has 45,000 residents, and it's the size of Belgium. So it's very sparsely populated, surrounded by amazing natural beauty and archaeological sites and monuments. But also, I think the other aspect of that is very important is that as we sort of make our commitment to sustainability, you're seeing wind and solar power, because the whole country of Saudi Arabia is transitioning away from just being an oil-based economy to a global economy, with tourism being one of the pillars. And interestingly, 75% of the population of Saudi Arabia is under the age of 35. So it's a lot easier to get young Saudis and young men and women to embrace sustainability and embrace change, because they believe it and they see it. And it's a much more, I think, doable task as a result of that.
What's the role of young people? You mean that they in France, in Europe, in Occident, they are much more radical when it comes to climate change. Are they pushing Saudi Arabia, or is this top to bottom?
It's both. It's top to bottom because it's a commitment from the leadership of the country. But more importantly, I think the locals and the residents of Saudi Arabia are embracing it, because they know that the oil supply will not last forever. So they need to diversify the economy, and they are privy to all the news and media that we see, and they understand that climate change is a very important issue, and they want to be on the forefront of it. And we have a series of events and activations across the country focused on sustainability, green energy, and progress in this area. So it's interesting. No one would have expected that from Saudi Arabia 5 years ago. But if you haven't been, you have to come see it, because I can talk about it all day, but until you come experience it, it's hard to understand.
And my question in terms of culture, you come from the UK?
America.
America?
Yeah.
They came to you. Why did they came to you?
Yeah, I was
Sorry for the question.
That's a great question. I get it all the time. I was the Minister of Tourism for Louisiana for 8 years, and then I was the CEO of Visit Dallas, and so for 16 years. So I got a call out of the blue from a search firm, and they said, we have this amazing opportunity in AlUla, and I thought it was Hawaii. And I said, which island is that? Yeah. They said, no, it's Saudi Arabia. And I said, no, I'm not interested in going to work in Saudi Arabia. And they're like, no, you got to come see this place. And they flew me over, and I took a look around, and I met with the people, and I thought, this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to help create an industry from the ground up and do it right. Because we learn from all the mistakes of other destinations. But this is an opportunity to get it right. So it's been an amazing journey for the last 3.5 years. And we've gone from hosting maybe 20,000 visitors 4 years ago to 140,000 visitors last year. But again, our commitment is not to be a mass tourism destination. We want these 7,000 years of historical monuments and artifacts to be around for another 7,000 years, so everything we're doing is to preserve and protect that for future generations.
And what kind of people do you want in?
We want people with money.
I love it.
So our target audience,
it.
now there are multiple projects across the kingdom. We're spending about $35 billion on our development, which is not insignificant. Some are spending $500 billion on their projects. But our position is the premium luxury destination for KSA. So we only have 600 hotel rooms today. And we just opened Banyan Tree last week. We have Habitas, another sustainable brand out of the U.S., and we're building 3 Amman resorts and others. So everything we're doing is focused, at least for phase 1, on the luxury market, because we don't want to be mass tourism. I love Petra, but you go there with 1,000 people, right?
Absolutely.
You come to AlUla and go to Heger with 3. So it's a very different experience, very individualistic, very bespoke.
I went to Acropolis this summer. We've been on the same day 16,000 people.
Yeah.
It was fascinating. I mean, it was a showroom for clothes. Great. And what did you learn from other, I would say, established tourism developments around the world? You mentioned that, I mean, there've been some mistakes done elsewhere.
I think overdevelopment. You know, what we're doing is putting in place every asset we build fits into the environment. It doesn't stick out. No high rises, no big obtrusive buildings. Everything we're doing is to engage the local community. We're going for certainly quality over quantity because, you know, mass tourism is I think, you know, one of the reasons people sometimes have a negative perception of the tourism industry, whereas if you focus on sustainable development, quality over quantity, and ensure that, you know, you bring the local community along the journey with you, I think those are all lessons that we've learned. And finally, you know, the big lesson we've learned is take your time, do it right. And don't rush to do something because at the end of the day, you may make mistakes that you'll regret.
So what's interesting with AlUla and Monaco is that luxury seems a great asset to promote sustainability. Do you mean that these travelers are more educated? Would you say that? Or?
If they are more educated, I don't know. Maybe they travel, they are used to travel. So maybe it's, I'm not sure this is the answer, but you know, 2 years ago I was in a congress in Switzerland, and a person who was in charge of sustainability in the hotels gave us a great example concerning luxury and sustainability. And she said, you know, when you buy fantastic watch, I will not say the trend.
The brand. Patek Philippe, you mean?
Swiss one. You do it because it's beautiful, because you know that we'll be able to keep it a long time, and maybe you will be able to give it to your son, to your daughter. So luxury is also quality. And I think that we have to think of luxury like this, and that our clients think of luxury like this.
Cultural transmission. It's a great example, actually, and I think that the advertising was from Patek Philippe. You don't own it; you give it to your son or daughter. Carole Savage, I'm sorry I had an issue with my mic. You are the publisher from Not in the Books.
Not in the Guidebooks.
Sorry, not in the Guidebooks, because I had to jump on the website and maybe it works. Here we go. So I have to push F11. No, help. So
that's okay. We'll wing it.
It's a wonderful and very beautiful website.
Thank you.
That promotes sustainable travel destinations. And I've been wandering in that website for the last 3 days. Maybe we'll discuss this just after. As said on your website, you have a passion for travel done properly. Mm-hmm. What I would say, after presenting yourself, what do you mean by that?
I've traveled a long time. Like you, I have 3 sons. And for me, going to a place was really important to connect with the people primarily. That's the most important thing. So that you can then taste their food, see the activities that are so kind of integral to the DNA of the country. And also not just go to the main hotspots, but go into the country, to go into the heart and really understand the place that you're going to. So for me, traveling done properly is world education. It's about really connecting with the place that you're going to. So our company is a platform that brings together a community of eco-friendly and sustainable providers of eco-friendly accommodation, but also sustainable experiences. We create experiential, thank you, we create experiential holidays. And I think, and just people love doing things, but what's really lovely is doing things that are the essence of the place that you're going to. And one of the things that we talked about before, I think, you know, when you're talking about this is about communication, for me this is mainly helping travel agents be able to provide sustainable holidays, not because they are preaching to their customers, but because they are providing something fun, interesting, experiential that also happens to be sustainable.
Absolutely. How do you curate this destination? How do you make sure that they're really what it looks like they are? Because, I mean, everybody can communicate on something sustainable, and you're far from this destination. I'm pretty sure that you visited all these places to make sure that they are what they are.
Yeah, it's very difficult, especially over the last 2 years. We started 3 months before the pandemic, so you know, it was crazy times, and you know, we had to pivot really quickly to bring in and make our focus much more local and you know, closer to home, so that we could really understand what it is that people are doing. So how do we do it? I think it's a combination of making sure that when we are interviewing the local travel partner, we're asking questions. We're starting ourselves in certification, and so we have guidelines, and there are definite red lines of what we will not do in terms of, you know, there are 4 things for us on sustainability. It's climate for us. There's 17 goals, but for us there are 4 things that we focus on, which is animal welfare. So often we get people, and this is really difficult one, saying, oh, can you get us tickets to the zoo? And we go, no, we don't do caged animals, but there's a real grey line because of conservation. So it's a really interesting topic when you start talking about what is sustainability. For me, it is about moving forward. So I'm saying there are 4 things. There's animal welfare, there's human rights, there's climate action, and there's local community. And for us, when we are choosing the experiences, we make sure that none of the red lines are breached. But a lot of people are just starting out on this sustainable journey. So what we're trying to do on our site and in communication is get people to experience the most amazing things in the countries and showcase best practice examples of what they're doing to help with these goals. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. So how your travel more expensive than normal travels, I would say that would be non-sustainable? Is there a price to sustainability when we come to you?
No, I don't think so. I don't think so, because the way we look at it is that, for me, this isn't it isn't you either are or you're not sustainable. This is about connecting with the place you're going and using and promoting local restaurants, local communities, local providers of experiences, local activities. And often those things are, you know, it doesn't come with a price. It's just about spreading the tourism revenue outside of the main areas.
Absolutely. What I understand is that when it comes to MBS in Saudi Arabia, Carol, or the Prince and Princess, the system of belief of the boss, I would say, is really key to drive that kind of strategy. It's really top to bottom. It's really key in terms of policy. You really like what you do. That's what I hear, and that's what I've been wondering in this website. It's really splendid. There's a lot to read, etc. Great pictures, etc. So people really consider this topic as an important topic. It's a matter of responsibility, as I said, and it's a matter of business also. What kind of recommendation would you give to the audience and the people that are listening to us around the world for a good strategy on how to communicate on sustainable travel?
Well, for communication, I think what's really important is creating something that is exciting and memorable. For me, we just did a trip in Norway with some travel agents. And I think, first of all, it's really important to give tools for travel agents to help their customers travel sustainably, because I don't think people go into a travel agency or go online and go, you know, I want a sustainable holiday. Some people do, but I think most people are saying, I want to go somewhere and I want something really exciting. And I think it's the job of the operators and the agents to make sure that when they have an amazing trip, it is sustainable. It's not we're saying to the consumer, you've got to ask for it. It's about showcasing why it's better, why it's exciting, why meeting the locals and eating the food is better than just going and sitting in a place where you've got internet.
So, for instance, I call you, I want to go to Palau in the Philippines, I want to do a helicopter there. So you say, no way.
That's red line. That's, for us,
How do you tell this to me?
we say, sorry, that's not something that we provide. Go find it with someone else.
And you don't propose me something else?
Yeah, well, of course I would.
Absolutely.
I would say to you, that's not, yeah. But we would say, no, but what we do have is a fantastic boat ride or travel or train or whatever it is that we do. Horse riding, walking, e-biking, all these different things that you can do that's fun. It's not a chore. It's got to be exciting. You're on holiday.
That's it. What are the options? You mentioned my 3 lovely kids, 3 boys. We went to New York. They wanted to do helicopter. So what am I going to propose them?
I don't know, actually, because my kids now would not ask me to do that, because like I think you were talking
My
about the
kids are
younger
rude.
generation, they are the proponents. They're carrying this flame. We don't have to convince them. I think actually it is, older people who are catching up with the younger people. So I don't worry about my kids asking me, but I just think it's about proposing alternatives.
Absolutely.
And I think it's about showcasing to the travel agents the exciting things that they can offer their customers that are sustainable. So for me, it's about creating these packages and making easy for travel. If it's difficult, they won't do it. If we can make it easy, it becomes a lot, the wave of people just expecting it as hygiene, that you go somewhere and it has to be sustainable, but we can have a lot of fun on the way.
And is the grammar, the way you express these messages around sustainable travel more difficult compared to, I would say, carbon experiences like helicopter? For my kids, it's fascinating. Speedboat, whatever, in Copenhagen, etc. How do you communicate and how do you engage people?
Because we have so many amazing local experiences that I think are so much more exciting than a helicopter ride. I'll give you one example that literally happened last week.
Give us example. Actually.
We had a team of travel agents that we took to Norway, and we didn't just go to Oslo or Bergen or the normal places, but they went with electric cars into the middle of Norway, and they learned in this fantastic hotel how to make Norwegian griddle cakes, which is what they eat. So they were taught how to cook it, how to make it, and they tasted something new. And then they did an e-bike ride where the people said it was the best e-bike, best bike ride, not e-bike, best bike ride in the world. And then they went scuba diving in Norway in October to an underwater, it was like Atlantis, an underwater farm. Now you explain something like this to the kids that you're talking about, I think they're going to go for that 100% before they go for a helicopter ride. Boring. I stayed on the floor, actually. Not because it was boring, it was too expensive for me. $260 per ride, times 5. Yeah. Thank you so much. Okay.
Thank you so much. Dr. Jacqueline Boysselle. Hi. You're the head of teaching, research, and marketing communication at the Montpelier Business School. Maybe you'll tell us more about this. And my question would be around nudge, or maybe you can define what's nudge and nudging. I know that it was a Nobel Prize, Mr. Thaler, if I remember well. And it's a great way to transform people's behavior. And how can nudge be interesting when it comes to consumer education, for instance?
Okay, thank you very much. I'm very glad to be with you all, sharing some thoughts, because nothing is a truth, but we are only sharing thoughts. Just briefly, Montpellier Business School, it's among the first French business schools that were really interested in sustainability. We were among the first ones to get labeled and accredited with the sustainable and inclusion labels. The number one that started with alternants. All our Master 2 are alternants. It's a form of inclusion.
Okay, so it's kids that are students but are also part-time working in companies.
Exactly. So we allow those kids that perhaps they have difficulties to pay the scholar payments, that the enterprises could pay them for them, and they can work for these enterprises. So, to say that, we deliver 200 hours of teaching in sustainability, more or less, in different disciplines, and more than 25% of our research is impacted on sustainability. So that's only to say a bit of Montpellier Business School. I am, the head of the communication, marketing, and sales department. I have under my responsibility 20 researchers. And I'm very, very happy with, I feel proud to belong to Montpellier Business School. I also am part of the COAST chair. What's a chair? It's a fusion between research, teaching, and enterprise. So what enterprises can fund the research that we are doing about COAST. Why? Because it's communication for transition, for sustainable transition. So we do research and we deliver our results to them so they can have practical implications, business implications for them. Now, talking about nudging, I would like to say we know now that businesses and governments, they are acting for transforming their business models. I've heard two due dates, 2030 and 2050. Those are the two due dates for transforming their business models. But I think that businesses and governments, they are aware that if consumers, they're not with them, that consumers, they are also a critical point in order to advance with this transformation. Because if businesses and governments, they are now transforming and looking forward to do something positive against climate change, but consumers, they don't go and they don't change, it's going to be difficult to do it. So, there's good news. In 2021, there's this Eurobarometer, the 513 one, that said that 93% of consumers, they are aware and concerned about climate change. So they are aware. You were asking, Estelle, how do you find the new tourism? Perhaps they're not more educated, but they are more aware and they are a bit more conscious. So yes, they are more conscious, but guess what? Research shows that most of them, they don't act. Why they don't act? They cannot act on climate change because, first of all, they do not understand the concept. Sometimes they are completely lost with all the information they receive. Second, they don't have enough awareness and motivation. Then lack of money and time. And the third one, it's an effect that we found out that we call the effect doom, the doom effect. And the doom effect is when consumers, they feel completely blocked to act. Why? Because they receive so many messages, catastrophic and negative messages regarding climate change, apocalyptic messages
They're saturated.
regarding climate change. They are overusing media. Sometimes they overuse those messages. that they feel frozen, and they feel that their individual behavior is not going to represent anything on the general behavior. So they prefer just to stay static. No? So thinking about how to solve this perception, there's this theory called nudging. Am I pronouncing it well?
Yes, you are.
Thank you. Not nudging. So what's nudging? Don't show it.
We're left alone. I tried to, but we're left alone.
Well, nudging. Nudging, it's a theory from a Nobel Prize for the behavioral economics that suggests that when you adopt some conditions or factors in your communication, consumers or individuals are going to be you're going to facilitate or you're going to influence a positive decision making for them. Okay, so I'm going to give you the example. Do you think you can?
No, I can't.
You nearly did.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, in the meanwhile, I'm going to talk about this example. So you have, for example, there you are.
I have it.
You see? We have one condition here, just a very simple one. You have the light switch, and the only thing that you are adding, it's a sticker. So it's very cheap. It's a sticker about an electrical plant saying CO2, just to reminding you that you need to turn on and turn off the lights every time you come and you get out from the room. You see? We are not communicating in a catastrophic way, and we are educating our consumers, and that can be B2B, B2C, and B to everyone, to your kids, you see. So you can install that in your hotels. You can install that in your enterprises. The second one, it's very cool. It's a paper, the paper towels dispenser that shows you, and it's an incentive of World Wide Foundation, telling you what you see. It's Brazil, no? It's the Amazonia. So every time you use a towel paper, you are, in a sense, contributing to the deforestation. So don't overuse towel papers in order to conserve.
We're running short of time. For men, you've all noticed the bee in the restrooms, huh? Didn't you? No? Okay. You'll check next time. It's nudge. 2 questions. For you, Estelle, and you, Philip. Do you use university? Do you work with university? Do you engage with university to do research at some point?
We are in the reflection. We were thinking about it, yeah, because in
So
terms
maybe
of
you guys could
yeah,
speak
I was
at the
thinking
coffee,
of
huh?
it, because we, in the framework of our 3-year action plan, the last point is measurement, as I said, and we miss sustainable tourism indicators, and yeah, we have an idea to work with the university in Nice. But as you are very specialized in the matter,
As you're very special.
and I just have an example maybe to give you in terms
short.
of nudge marketing. I didn't know that it was nudge marketing, but or nudging. But in Monaco, you can find, I don't know the word in English, bouche d'égout.
Bouche d'égout?
Bouche d'égout. And this
Trash.
is
Urban trash, you know,
Trash,
where
yeah.
you have...
Okay. Yeah, yeah. We have put on the sea begins here, and in order to people not put they don't put stuff there. Exactly.
And when it comes to Saudi Arabia, do you work closely with universities?
We do. We spend a lot of time sending students across the world, a lot to the U.S., to Stanford, Harvard, Yale, to Oxford, to Cambridge, to INSEAD here in France. So we spend they have a very ambitious and well-funded scholarship program. In addition, we're building a hospitality college in AlUla because most of the local employees have never worked in the tourism industry. So we have to train them for those frontline jobs in AlUla so that they understand sort of the concepts of the service industry. So it's part of the ecosystem that we're building.
Great. Carol, would you promote Saudi Arabia and AlUla?
You know, I'm absolutely wowed by what you've said. And it's, you know, before I came onto this panel, I would have said no.
Great, we did our job.
I would be really interested to see for myself what, you know, what is there. That's, yeah.
Excellent. Oh, thank you so much. Maybe we'll get a question from the audience, even if I can't, I know, but I'm the boss.
It's a brief question. I mean, 3 of the panelists sell holidays, and I think actually they're all good, real good. But also make a claim about sustainability. To what extent do you avoid conflict of interest, or let's say greenwashing, by actually using independent third-party certification to actually justify your claim? Just yes, no, just that's all. Very short.
So can I answer that very quickly? What we're certifying ourselves, and what we're trying to do is badge all of the operators that we work with, so that, you know, they have to, as I said, there are red lines. They all have to meet a certain criteria to come on our site. But what we want to do is go further than that, because everybody's trying to do a little bit. And the problem is there's not very global one certification. You know, there's so many different ones. So what we're trying to do is badge them just to say, this is what they do and this is the award they've got. And our problem is how many there are. So we do it, but it's difficult.
Yes, it's a question for Jacqueline Boysselle. Don't you think people are going to feel guilty? I mean, if I go to the toilets just after this conference, yeah. How do I feel?
Thank you very, very much, Claire, for that. Yes, they may feel guilty, but it's a way to create new habits. You know, we are, for example, yesterday, the CEO, Coast Director, I think it's David Traca. Well, he said that he had during 7 days, he had his clients, no, in their cruises, and within those 7 days, he could even take the time to convert them into another religion. Huh? Why not take the time to have nudging and to make good habits to those people, like do not take the elevator, take the stairs, do not waste more water. You know, simple messages in order for them to start thinking about new habits. So yes, perhaps you can feel guilty, but you are educating in a very good and playful way.
I mean, the key point here is playful. It's always indirect messages when it comes to nudge.
Yeah, just a related question. Does research show there's a limit not to reach in terms of creating rejection of this wording on new habits? Because if everything where you're going is nudging you about being sustainable or eco-friendly or etc., do you not fear people will reject it?
Yes. That's why we need to be careful about the overusing of this.
So is there like a limit or 25?
Common sense. You don't just, you make 2 or 3 the more important sources of waste in your office, in your enterprise, in your organization. No more. Yeah, that's true.
I think it's the end of our panel. Thank you very much. Maybe we can give a round of applause to our great panel today. Thank you very much, everyone.